I mean, the IRS has figured things out well in advance, and there's really nothing that is going to completely avoid paying taxes. Again, trusts can have some elements of control in them that dictate how and when things happen. So within the trust.
Peter, so good to see you. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to start with a very common question. Is a trust a must? We're going to talk through what every family needs to know about estate planning. When it comes to estate planning, trusts often sound complex or unnecessary, but depending on your assets and goals, a trust can be a very powerful tool. So let's break down when a trust makes sense, when it doesn't, and why beneficiary documents are just as important as the estate plan itself. I want to start big picture, Peter. What is a trust, and why do so many people assume that they do not need one?
Well, it is not exclusively for the ultra wealthy, right? And we hear about family trust and trust fund babies, and you
Right.
might think that this
Yeah.
is only for people with bukus of millions of dollars, but it's not. It is a higher level of legal planning and a higher level legal document that can provide for privacy and efficiency and some additional measures of ongoing control. And there are a lot of different types of trusts. So we're
Right.
speaking in a very general term when we say a trust. It could be a special needs trust. It could be it is some type of charitable remainder trust. There are all kinds of very specific trusts to do specific jobs. And that's again where if an individual wants some ongoing element of control after their passing, a trust may help accomplish that. A will generally tells the courts who gets what after you're gone. But once that happens, once it's dispersed, it's their money to do with what they want and what they will with it. Whereas a trust can provide some ongoing measures of control, and it bypasses the court and the probate process.
Okay. Yeah. And we're going to revisit that in a second, but I do want to ask a little bit more specifically, when does a trust make sense and who might be better off without one?
Well, if you have what I would classify as a fairly standard situation, no business of your own, only like one primary residence, no properties in other states, and you trust your beneficiaries once you're gone and your needs with your money have been served, when they receive whatever is left over, that they will make the best choices for them and are capable and competent and trustworthy to make those decisions, then you may or may not need a trust. And I would lean on to the side of you probably may not need a trust. However, if siblings are going to fight, if you want to give limited access to the funds, if you have a intended purpose even after you're gone that you would like funds specifically set up to be utilized for, and if you would like a high level of privacy in your affairs, you don't just want this to be a matter of public record that you left X number of dollars to John and X number of dollars to Sally, and that is a matter of public record if it goes through the probate process.
Mhm.
So that would be, some of the reasons. Those would be some of the reasons why a trust would be important and who should utilize them. But I would say probably more people actually are exploring trusts than might need them, because most people fall into that relatively standard situation where the baseline legal documents and proper beneficiary designations go a long way in accomplishing those things.
Right. All right. Now you touched on a lot of these words, so let's talk it through. What are the biggest advantages of using a trust, especially when it comes to probate? Peter, I feel like we've heard about that. It's kind of like a boogeyman word.
Yep.
Probate, privacy, and control.
Well, I heard probate described as a lawsuit that you place on your family on behalf of your creditors after your death.
That
And
sounds
so,
scary.
not something that most people would want to put their
Right.
family through. So if we can avoid probate by properly having our affairs and our estate set up, then we should do that. And as you can see on the screen, there's a lot that goes into your estate planning. There's wills, there's trusts, there's advanced medical directives, there's the power of attorney. All of these things need to be in place to try to minimize the impact, the time, and the expense of probate. And in North Carolina, I've heard estimates that probate can cost somewhere between 1.5% to 2% of the total estate value that goes through the probate process. So where we can bypass this, where we can be a little bit more efficient in transferring assets, PODs and TODs, that's transfer on death and payable on death on various investment and bank accounts, and have beneficiary designations on our retirement accounts. Again, those can go a long way in accomplishing what most people want accomplished, which is just that our family gets most of our loved ones, our children get most of our assets.
Mhm.
Yeah, there are advantages to using that trust though. And for privacy, if you don't want your affairs to be a matter of public record, for the element of control that a trust can provide. Again, if you've got specific things that you want done with your money, or limitations that you would want to put on your money upon your beneficiaries' inability to access it completely upon your passing, then those are things that a trust can help accomplish. And again, there are certain circumstances where a beneficiary might not be capable or competent to handle an inheritance and an estate. And that's where pre-planning and trusts do have, I think they're one of the greatest values.
Right. Well, and I mean, you might have a very competent beneficiary. I learned when I was setting up my trust that I have 3 kids, you can separate when they get the money so that an
Sure.
18-year-old boy, as much as I love my boys,
Yeah.
I don't know that I would want them getting a huge lump sum when they turn 18.
Yeah. And if you do not do any pre-planning and pass away, that certainly can happen. Basically,
Right.
your entire estate value gets dumped into the lap of your children when they reach the age of majority. And, with retirement assets like IRAs, where most people have a good portion of
Right.
their net worth and their life savings in these yet to be tax deferred accounts, or in even their Roths, there is a mandate that those accounts must be liquidated over
Right.
10 years. So not only, this young beneficiary receiving this inheritance, but then being forced to actually make withdrawals over a 10-year period. This can be a wrinkle of complexity that we try to pre-plan and plan around to
Right.
make it happen to the wishes of the person who actually worked and earned and built up that money over their lifetime. And sometimes this is to the protection of the beneficiaries, right?
Right. Exactly. On the flip side, what are the downsides or common misconceptions about trust that people should understand before setting one up?
Well, I think one of the biggest common misconceptions is that they're going to help you avoid paying taxes. Look,
Mm,
I mean, the IRS has figured things out well in advance, and there's really nothing that is going to completely avoid paying taxes. Again, trusts can have some elements of control in them that dictate how and when things happen. So within the trust, you do have some element to have that control over when things are dispersed or distributed, or when taxable events are realized. But it is not going to avoid paying taxes. I think that's a big misconception. Also, generally, as I understand it, and caveat here, I'm not an attorney, but this is an area where I know enough to be dangerous of when and where things should and could be utilized. Generally, you do not want to leave those retirement accounts to the trust. You want to actually leave those to real living people with a birth date, with a age today, and that will help to facilitate the requirements for those distributions, which
right.
must happen over a 10-year period. So
Mhm.
I think that there is a time and a place and a rhyme and a reason and a utilization for trusts. But I also think that a lot of people are under the kind of the impression that everything that they own should go into a trust or be named into a trust, if they already have one or are thinking of one. And a lot of times I circle back with the individual and with the attorney as we are having conversations about how things are set up, and the individual comes to the realization that, oh, even the attorney told me I should not
Right.
have these assets named to the trust. Another big mistake is sometimes people have the trust designed and don't put any assets in it at all. It's not been funded, and therefore it doesn't serve its intended purpose. So you've got to be very careful if you are going down the path of having a trust, to be very specific about how your assets are named and titled, and which ones should and which ones should not be within the trust.
Even with a solid estate plan or trust in place, why are beneficiary designations so important and how often should they be reviewed?
Well, because the beneficiary designations often supersede
Yeah.
the estate, right? They go directly to those named beneficiaries upon death and upon providing proof of death. So on your accounts, where you have the opportunity to designate those beneficiaries, make sure that they are right, make sure that they are accurate, and make sure that they are up to date, because life changes. Kids and grandkids come around, people pass away, people change relationships, so people move. Any of these things are going to need to be reflected in the legal documents and in the legal planning in order to make the financial engine click the way it is intended and be executed the way that people envision.
Right. Yeah, we've all heard those horror stories of a couple gets divorced. The ex-spouse now is still the primary beneficiary. There's
Yep.
that leads to some real legal tangles.
Yeah, indeed it does. And if you don't do any of this, a lot of times the way that the state kind of mandates things happen is not often what people envision or would intend
Right.
for
Exactly.
themselves. So
Right.
go ahead and get those documents and speak with somebody who, is capable and experienced and qualified. I hate that people sometimes are oversold things that they don't need. I've met some really great attorneys that tell people when they need a trust and when they don't need a trust, and I respect that, because ultimately, if you're telling somebody, hey, you don't really need this something that I could make money off of as an attorney and as your attorney, I think that's generally pretty good
Right.
advice. But on the flip
Yeah.
side, if an attorney's saying, hey, you're in a situation where you really need a trust, and here's why it will help you meet your goals, then that's something you should listen to as well.
Absolutely. Well, Peter, if somebody wants to get that conversation started with you, because I know that you are able to connect a lot of your clients with vetted attorneys, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, and we can help to play the quarterback here and
Right.
facilitate the communication, because all elements, your financial, your tax, and your legal planning, all of those need to be coordinated efforts. You could have the best planner in each one of those, the best tax person, the best attorney, but if they are not coordinating efforts, you are not getting the most out of your
Right.
team. So we sort of play the point person on that and make sure it's all coordinated. And that's what we do for our clients here at Richon Planning. It's part of our planning process to double check these things. And if you'd like to run a review and double check and get your plan optimized, then start with a phone call. 919-300-5886. We'd love to have a conversation with you. Help in any way we can. 919-300-5886. Or online, richonplanning.com. Looks like richonplanning.com.
All right. Peter, thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Hey folks, Peter Richon here with Richon Planning. So glad that you are enjoying the podcast, Planning Matters Radio. One of the tools that we've put out there that people really seem to appreciate and really are finding of value is at 919retired.com. It is your retirement tax bill calculator. If you've got any kind of retirement account, your tax deferred, 401k, or IRA, this is the website, this is the resource where you can go, you can plug in your own numbers, your information, you can slide the tool calculator up and down for your tax rate or your amount of savings and see what your tax bill is likely to be if you default and defer to the IRS's plan versus what you could potentially bring that tax bill down to. A lot of times it is a very significant savings. So if you have not yet, go to the website 919retired.com, run your numbers on the retirement tax bill calculator.
This has been Planning Matters Radio.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookzone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.